Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to SAFC Live. We are pitch side here at the Stadium of Light for the final game of the normal season. Of course, Sunderland know that they're already into the playoffs, but a chance, Danny, for this team and this side and this club to go into those playoffs with a good performance. And it's a strong side as we look at the starting 11 and bench now, which Régis Lebris has named. Strong side for Sunderland, Danny. Strong bench as well as we move towards those important playoff games.
Yeah, it is, isn't it? And as you think, I think the key today is coming in and putting in a decent performance from the lads. And as you say there, he's made a couple of changes. Top end of the pitch, Mayenda coming in for Wilson Isidore, and Dennis Sirkin returning at left back for Leo Hjelde. But it is, mate, it's a big one this afternoon. I know people keep saying we're playing within ourselves, comfort zone, all this sort of stuff last few weeks. But it becomes real now, really. As I say, it's the last game before we go into the playoffs, and they come round thick and fast, don't they, in terms of the turnaround and prep and everything like that. So yeah, it's vital this afternoon that we come out and the lads play with a bit of confidence. And what you're going to get from Queen's Park Rangers, well, they're mid-table. They're coming off the back of a 5-0 hiding last time out against Burnley. I expect them to come and play with some freedom this afternoon. But for us, yeah, come out, start the game really well. Intensity, tempo, all those key words really, what you want to see from a Sunderland side at home, and put on a show for the fans.
Are you looking for patterns of play within this 11 as well? Because this would be probably his best 11, you'd imagine. Obviously, people are subjective, the Mayenda Isidore argument as well, I guess, as well, and maybe if Mundell's fit as well. But is it about trying to get those little combinations of those little partnerships around the pitch as well? That's important as well, isn't it? As well as momentum.
Of course it is, yeah. But I think first up, individually, you want to put in a performance. And in recent weeks, we haven't had enough sort of 8 out of 10s, really. We've had too many flat performances individually and then obviously collectively. And prime example was last week down at Oxford. People say, you know, those loose sort of second balls in the middle of the pitch, we didn't come out on top enough. The goals we conceded, you know, 2 set pieces there, 2 centre-backs getting on the score sheet. So a little detail like that. And obviously set pieces, you look at Dan Ballard coming back in, and I said, you know, will he consider Dan? Obviously it depends who you're coming up against in the playoffs, but set pieces are key in games, and at this moment in time we've looked a little bit flaky defending set pieces, if truth be told, so that's got to tighten up at the back. And then obviously creating opportunities at the top end of the pitch. I think we scored 1 in the last 4 or 5 games. Yeah. So we've got to do a little bit more at the top end of the pitch. And yeah, you've mentioned it there, Isidore and Mayenda. I think at this moment in time, I think most fans, and I would edge towards Elijah Mayenda. Yeah. He always makes things happen on the pitch. You know, he's a threat whether he comes off the bench as well and creates opportunities, and you haven't got to look any further than his goal a few weeks ago at Bristol City. Yeah,
absolutely. Should we have a look at the league table if we can? Because a lot of eyes in EFL will be on this table. At the top and the bottom, there's a lot of permutations, isn't there, Danny? You want to go through well, let's start at the top, the playoff spots.
Yeah, you're looking at,
who we're going to face in the playoffs.
Well, this is it, isn't it? We could have one of 5 teams really coming into it today. I think obviously Bristol City, you would favour, are in the driving seat. I think they're at home this afternoon, aren't they? They've got Preston, so you'd fancy them, but Preston obviously scrapping for their lives at the other end of the table. Yeah. So I think out of the 12 games today, there's 8 which have got some sort of information on top end of the table, bottom end of the table, really, how it can go.
It could be in a scenario, Danny, where Middlesbrough are in the mix as well. They could be sneaking into that last place.
That's the big one, isn't it? They've got Coventry as well, haven't they? So they need to win, obviously. Middlesbrough's season, it's been up and down. That sort of sums up where they are at this moment.
I just think back to when we got in the playoffs under Tony Mowbray, and we snuck in, didn't we?
Crept in backdoor at Preston, didn't we? Yeah, I think it was Blackburn were away at Millwall, weren't they? Yeah. And then half time it was looking like doom and gloom for our point of view, and then all of a sudden, set in 45 minutes, we done our job. I think Millwall helped us out against Blackburn, and then we crept in backdoor, didn't we? So there's going to be a lot of that today. As I say, we're here obviously focusing on our game, which in essence is a dead rubber when you look at it. Nothing can affect the table. But a lot of those games, there's a lot to play for, and there'll be a lot of nervous fans up and down the country this afternoon.
Nevertheless, the fans are welcoming the side behind us as they move onto the pitch for their pre-game warm-up. These players know what's at stake, don't they? They know this league table. They know that they could potentially face any of those teams in the mix as well. And, of course, end up facing a big side like Sheffield United in the final if they were to get there as well. It's business time for these players, and they've got a lot at stake, haven't they, as individuals and as a club?
Yeah, well, they've obviously been to Portugal as well for a bit of a revamp.
A few nice suntans
out
there,
warm weather training, as they say, albeit it's been about 25 degrees here, so they could have stayed at home and saved a few quid. But no, listen, they've got away. A bit of a reset, really. As you say, we're coming off the back of 4 defeats. You don't want to end the season with a 5th defeat. and I say the confidence will be low at this moment in time. But how do you put that right? Go out there, show what you're all about, show the rest of the league why we've been up the top end of the table for so long this season. First 2 months we were in the top 2.
Exactly.
And then obviously we've been rooted really
well,
at sort of fourth,
there's a reason why Sunderland have been so solid in fourth. It's because we played well all season really, consistently. We haven't had as much wins in this division since 2007-2008 season, of course, as well.
That's
and they
right.
could move on to 79 points, which would be a very good return from a team who finished, 16th last season?
Yeah, I think so, Paul. Sure. No, I think so. No, I just go back to earlier in the season. I think most people would agree where we played with a little bit more energy, pressing a little bit higher. Hasn't been there in recent weeks, if we're honest, but you can get that back. Got to start today, and I'm sure it's something they've talked about, something they've worked on the training pitches over the last week or so as well. And then you've got to try and reset, as I say, refocus. Yes, today's game was a free hit from our point of view. If we lost today 1-0, I say now you want to end the run of defeats, but if we lost 1-0 today, but we put in a really good performance, created numerous opportunities, I'd take that as a positive, really, even going into the playoffs.
Yeah.
So, but if it's a flat performance,
I think the fans want to see that as well, don't they? They want to see opportunities created, especially from the front line, which they haven't done in the last few games.
And because they know that it's there, it's within this squad. Of course, we keep talking about the youngest squad in the league, but it's these players, the same group of players which were showing those performances earlier in the season. Go back to Sheffield Wednesday, 4-0. Burnley was 1-0, should have been 2 or 3. These type of performances earlier in the season, which we know is within these boys. So it's a lovely day, slick surface.
Well, there's a lot of talking about this.
There
was a lot of talk of the surface last weekend. I wasn't here. Dan and you did the show
down
as
Oxford,
well. And apparently they left the grass pretty long and it wasn't wet at all. Was that a factor in the game?
Possibly, yeah.
Well, slow things down.
I've been there. Various managers use this tactic, and if you're playing some of the top sides in the league who like to get the ball down and pop it around, well, what do you use to your strengths? Well, tell the groundsman leave a little bit on it. Don't put the sprinklers on, and it looked a little bit dry. Got to be honest, but that's to their strength and use the advantage. And listen, you can talk about the overall the 90 minutes. We didn't do enough, but look at the goals they scored. It's a ball lumped from distance into our box. We don't deal with it. And then straight after half-time, balls gets fired in through the wall. We don't deal with it, and we're 2-0 down. So we didn't show enough throughout the 90 minutes. And then we had one half chance with Chris Riggs' header off the post.
Right, we will look at the teams again, and of course today's opposition QPR in a little bit more detail when we return after this break. Well, welcome back to SFC Live. We've just been treated to some musical performances inside the ball here, and that's because some of the cast of Sunderland's Story, James has been along to play a song for us, and we're going to try and grab him for an interview in a second. A lovely day for a game of football. Danny QPR, the opposition, of course. It's 12:30 kickoff.
Yeah, fantastic day for it. Generally is last day of the season. It seems to be like this, doesn't it? Where it's usually, well, it's been up in the 20s all week, really. No, it's a fantastic day for it. But yeah, most importantly, the performance from the days this afternoon.
And he's the man who's just been playing on the pitches.
Yeah.
James, hello, we are here once again. And you're here because you're performing in the Sunderland Story at the Sunderland Empire. Give us a little bit of a synopsis about the Sunderland Story.
So it charters the history of the football club through the eyes of a fictional family, the Carters. Goes right the way back to the inception of the club, right the way through to these boys here. And yeah, so a little bit of update from last time, obviously, because 2 years have passed. We've got the problem that we might be on the playoff finals when there's a show on, so, but that's a good problem to have.
Yeah, a good problem to have, because everyone will be Sunderland daft around that point of time, because if Sunderland were to get that far in the playoffs. But how long is the show running for at the Empire?
It's from the 15th to the 31st of May, Tuesday to Saturday, 2 shows on a Saturday. To get your tickets.
And it's good for all the family to get down?
Absolutely. It's family friendly. From like my nephew came last time, he was about 8, right the way through to you got 90 odd year olds coming. It's family friendly. You'll laugh, you'll cry, and you'll want to come again.
Great. Yeah. Fantastic stuff. James, it's just a quick one this afternoon, so thanks so much for performing once again. Good luck with the production once again, and hopefully we'll see you when we're in the Premier League.
Right. Cheers, James.
See you later, James. That's James there from Sunderland Story. You can get your tickets for the Sunderland Story right now. They're performing at the Sunderland Empire this summer. And as he says, Danny, in and around the time we could be potentially at Wembley, why not? Why a better place to get in the mood for a Wembley final?
Well, they might have to extend the show, mightn't they, and have a bit more material if the lads get there. And obviously, I'm sure he'd enjoy going down to Wembley and playing Wise Men Say Out in front of 85,000 or so, wouldn't he?
Well,
so
yeah, why
if
not?
he gets the opportunity.
See what happens there. Okay, then let's all eyes and all focus on this game. 12:30 kickoff. Let's have a look at the Sunderland side. There's been a couple of changes, Danny, in the 11 and subs bench, as well as Régis Lebris prepares his side for the playoffs.
Yeah, I think obviously looking at it now, you're trying to get back to full strength, aren't you? Building for the playoffs. It's just really Romain Mundle coming back out the treatment room that they're waiting on now, and by all accounts he's been out to Portugal and train with the boys, and then trying to get his fitness up and ready if he's going to be ready to go in the playoffs. And I'd say it gives him a bit of a headache in terms of selection, because you want your full squad to pick from, and he's almost got that back now, hasn't he? So yeah, you're looking at that today with the 2 changes coming in. Leo Kjelder dropping out for Dennis Cirkin coming back in, and then it's the one at the top end again, isn't it, with Elijah Mayenda returning in place of Wilson Isidore. So other than that, you look at the bench, there's good strength in depth on the bench as well. And as I say now, I say good competition for the boys. They need to put in a performance if they want to nail down a shirt for the first playoff game.
Delighted to say that club historian, our friend of the programme, Rob Mason, is alongside us pitch side for the final game of the season normal, as we know it. Of course, Sunderland have well ensured that place in the playoffs, but of course we don't know who we're going to play yet in the playoffs, do we?
No idea. I mean, I'm sure you and everybody watching have been through all the permutations. You know, there's lots of different options. Look, in 2 or 3 hours time we'll know exactly who it is. I was over at the training ground yesterday and I was talking to 1 or 2 people, and they were saying, well, we're preparing for the game. I was talking about analysts, but at the moment they're preparing work for about 5 different teams. Come final whistles this afternoon, they'll be able to focus their work just on the team that we are playing rather than any of the ones we possibly could be. But let's come through this game unscathed. We don't want to pick up an injury today.
Or suspensions.
Well, I think suspensions don't carry over in the playoffs. Okay. I could be wrong on that. I stand to be corrected. But I think if you were sent off today for anybody, I don't think it carries over.
First game next season, you think that?
Might well be. I'm not too sure, Danny, but I don't think it.
We'll confirm that, Rob, during the game.
I think if you got sent off today, because I'm not so much thinking about Sunderland players getting sent off, but of the teams we could possibly be playing, they're playing in games with high jeopardy, where there might be a sending off. Right. So if, say, for instance, we ended up playing, let's say for argument's sake, we ended up playing Middlesbrough, and Middlesbrough had a player sent off today, I don't think you can jump to the conclusion that Middlesbrough player would be unavailable for the playoffs. But I'm not too sure about that. Let's check it. But I think in terms of our performance today, clearly we want to come through unscathed in terms of an injury, but also ideally we want to come through with a decent performance, a better performance than we've had recently, and give everybody a bit of belief and a bit of confidence going into it. But regardless of how that works, in my opinion, I think I said this to you last week, what I'm bothered about is that regardless of what Sunderland are like in this last few games of the regular season, when there's nothing at stake at all really, I'm absolutely convinced that come next Friday night, wherever we're playing, Ashton Gate, Coventry, Middlesbrough, wherever it is, I'm absolutely convinced we'll see the Sunderland that's got us into this position rather than the Sunderland of the last 4 games.
Yeah, I just had to confirm in my ear that the suspension would not carry over into the playoffs, but of course then it would be start from scratch again during the playoffs, of course. Yeah, you mentioned that earlier, this side has to be ready to play against whoever they end up playing.
Yeah.
And we've seen this season that they're more than the match they can be for any of those sides.
Well, of course they are. That's why we've got 76 points at this stage of the season and sat there for most of the season. So, yeah, I think if you look at it from both sides of it, I think whoever we get in the playoffs, they would look at us if they got us and think, well, Sunderland are having a bit of a rocky spell, but at the same time, they've got to respect us because of what we've done earlier in the season as well and got into that position and been sat in the playoffs and secured it for, 4 or 5 games now, haven't we? So, yeah, I think, listen, you can't. It's not a tap where you can turn form on and you only players know. I can only speak for myself. I've had this discussion countless times in the last week or two, really. But we know it's within these boys and that. And I think come Friday night, is it 7:45 kickoff, whatever time it may be,
8 o'clock.
8 o'clock kickoff, wherever we're at, that the boys, they know what's at stake and it's a big prize at the end of it. So yeah, hopefully they can turn up.
And looking at history, Rob, it's not very often, it's very uncommon that a Sunderland fan will get to this point of the season and Sunderland would either not have anything to play for looking up or looking down. So the fact that we've been relatively secure in this bizarre situation for over a month now, this is pretty unprecedented, really, from a Sunderland fan point of view.
It's really quite, it's really very unusual in that, look, there have been the occasional seasons, even in recent years, not many. There have been the occasional season where the season's petered out and we haven't had anything to play for, though, as we all know, generally we've been avoiding relegation, chasing promotion or scrambling for a playoff place. But this year, we've had that situation where, we're petering out the season, 4 or 5 games where we know we're going to finish 4th, whatever happens, but that's not the end of the season.
No.
We know that then it's like, this has been like a little bit of a mini pre-season, as it were, and when we come up to Friday, we start what is going to be definitely 2 games and hopefully 3 that matter as much as any game in the season, as much as any game in the club's history, because it's imperative we get back into the Premier League. We've already been out of the top division for longer than at any stage in the club's entire history. Sunderland shouldn't be mucking about in the Championship, let alone League One. We're a top-flight club, and the sooner we're back there, the better. We've got a great opportunity of getting back there this season. We don't want to throw it away now and be looking at the fixtures when they come out and thinking we're playing, in the Championship again. We are a top-level club. We're a top-level fan base. The club's got a top-level history. That's where we need to be. And we need to come through this game, as I say, unscathed. Hopefully, I take Danny's point, you can't turn your form on and off. Hopefully playing, more fluidly and more coherently than we have in recent weeks. And then go into those games with a real will to win and the ability to take on any of those teams in the playoffs, anybody we might meet in the final. And let's look at it throughout the course of this season. When we've come up against the 3 teams above us in the league, we've played well in all of those games.
And Danny, from a professional's point of view, I'm just looking at these players behind us. All of these players want to be Premier League players. I'm talking everyone from Harrison Jones, Trey Hume, Chris Mepham, even though he's not our player, he wants to be playing in the Premier League next season. Enzo Lefebvre, imagine him in the Premier League for Sunderland. They're all playing for that.
Yeah, and like as you say, the young lads that have come through from a young age. Dan Neil, captain, leading us out of Wembley and to get us to
Luke
the Premier
O'Nien
League,
going through all the leagues.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and the games he's churned out for the club as well. So yeah, there's a massive prize, and they know it as well. And as Rob says, we've the longest stint outside the top flight for how many years is it? 8 years now. We've been out of the top flight.
Eighth year. Before that, the longest we'd ever been out was 6.
Yeah.
So we're already 2 years longer than we've ever been at the top flight.
Yeah, and as you say, it's not just the group of players; it's the 40,000 that are in here every week as well. And obviously, our rivals up the road are lording over us a little bit at this moment in time. They're having a good spell of it, so we want to be back up there. You want to get the derbies out here, and I've played in enough of them. I know what it means for the fans here and the city itself, and that's what we want to get back. Of course you do.
Yeah. Let's have a look at Queen's Park Rangers this afternoon for the first time. We'll throw their side up. People are saying outside of this game they haven't got anything to play for, but a team with no manager and a team of players in a situation where they're all playing for contracts, they're all playing for their place, and the young players who came through into the squad this afternoon, they're playing for a shirt for next season.
Well, I'll just add 2 things straight away jump out on me there. They've had a hiding 5-0 last week, so you want a reaction and want to get back to that. The manager is on gardening leave by all accounts, and then contracts playing for next season. New manager or whoever's watching and you want to finish with a high. Your last game of the season, yes, technically on paper there's nothing to play for, but 5-0 last week. If we turn it on today and we put 4-5 past them, they're finishing with an absolute hiding on the end of the season. New manager comes in, he's looking at that thinking, what's the attitude like? There's loads of things that come into it as well. So it's...
Yeah, Danny's absolutely spot on. They are coming off that 5-0 home defeat from Burnley. They look like they're going to lose their manager. They don't want to end the season with two defeats. But they can be relaxed. They're not scrambling like this game last season. We didn't have anything to play for, but Sheffield Wednesday needed to win to stay up.
Yeah.
We've not got a team who desperately need the points, and that means they're not going to be affected by nerves. They're going to be relaxed. There's 2 former Sunderland players in their team, including their captain, and of course Jack Colback coming back. They'll want to make good impressions, and I think Jimmy Dunn, the captain, is a centre-back. I think he's their second top scorer with 5 goals, he's going to be a threat from set pieces. It could be a difficult game, and the one time in history we ever played QPR at home in the last game of the regular season was the season we won the FA Cup in 1973, and QPR were already promoted with Burnley, funnily enough, and we'd won the cup obviously on the Saturday. On the Monday we'd gone to Cardiff for an outstanding league game that was a big game because Cardiff needed a point to stay up, which they got. On the Tuesday we brought the FA Cup back, starting at Carville, a 13-mile bus trip eventually to a packed Roker Park. So the players were obviously shattered, and then we played QPR on the Wednesday night. It was a big crowd, and we got beat 3-0. We got beat 3-0. We were 1-0 down, and although it was an end of season game, all hell let loose. The referee, who was a Mr. Peter Reeves of Leicester, who I think remained the most unpopular referee in Sunderland for decades. At one point, I'm not condoning this, but it's a memory. At one point, he was being chased in the centre circle by a fan who'd come out the full end and was chasing him with a corner flag until 2 of the Sunderland players wrestled the fan to the ground. Then Mickey Horswell got sent off. QPR's goalkeeper Phil Parks, who was an England international, had a blinder. And then QPR scored 2 goals in the last quarter of an hour against a very tiring side. That was meant to be a nice, quiet end-of-season game as well. You don't know what's going to be in store this afternoon.
Yeah, there's been a few funny end-of-season games in recent history for Sunderland. I remember the one where we beat the Wolves, who were champions of the Championship when we went down to League One. Stuffed them and that did.
Absolutely, and on that day you'll remember Barley Mumba came off the bench for his debut.
Took the armband off John O'Shea, didn't he?
Took the armband. And John was joking after the game that Barley had been in the dressing room threatening he was going to fine players. He'd only played for a minute, but he had worn the armband, and it was a day when Wolves could have had 100 points, and Wolves didn't turn up. Wolves didn't turn up at all. There we were. We'd been shocking all season. Suddenly we won 3-0. End of season games can have funny, quirky results, and if that happens to us today, well, it'll be disappointing. We obviously don't want to lose, but ultimately the games we want to win start on Friday.
Yeah, a lot of talk about the bottom of the division as well this afternoon. Who do you think's going to slip down there, Danny? Who do you think's? Well, if we put the bottom up,
tables up there. So I think Cardiff have obviously gone. Plymouth are gone. Technically, they've goal swing. They need 14 goals or something. So they're gone. They got Leeds as well. Leeds obviously going for 100 points in the title like Burnley. I think Hull. are going to go. I think just have a look at the game. Who Hull are at.
So Luton, Preston in the mix, of course, Derby.
Hull are away at Portsmouth. I know you say Portsmouth are sort of there, but they're at home. I don't know. I'd probably say that one really. So maybe the 3 that are in there for me.
Go. Preston could potentially go.
You know your conspiracy ones where you think about teams just playing a game out. Just looking at Bristol City are at home to Preston. Do you think Bristol City might think a point might be enough for us, or not? Even though
I think Bristol City, I think, are likely to qualify for the playoffs, but I don't think they'll be going to the game thinking we want a point.
They're
going to be wanting to make sure, and I think they're the likeliest team to finish 5th in playoffs. But who knows? But I think Preston could go, and if Preston did go, it would be sad from the point of view that if Sunderland were in the Championship next season, which obviously we don't want to be, it's a relatively short away trip, and it's an away trip where you get a lot of tickets for the away fans. Right. However, given Preston's antics here, when at one time there was 3 players allegedly injured, I wouldn't be crying in my beer tonight if Preston had gone down. Put it that way.
No, as you say, it's strange with Preston because we associate them with a mid-table team, and then all of a sudden it's caught up with them, haven't they?
Plummeted.
Right in amongst it, Stoke down there as well, struggled, haven't they, since they come out of the Premier League? So I don't think they finished higher than 14th. So it's a tough old division, and teams are scrambling.
It's a tough old division, and Sunderland are in the playoffs. We know that for certain, and we'll know for certain as well, guys, who we're going to be playing when the final whistles go in the EFL Championship this afternoon. Rob, I imagine you'll be back for the playoffs with us?
I think there's a fair chance.
There's a fair chance. All right then. Rob, go and enjoy your game this afternoon. We'll see you very soon.
See you in a bit. Cheers.
Here on the last day of the regular season as we know it. It is Sunderland versus Queen's Park Rangers here at the Stadium of Light. Another quick look at that Sunderland side before we hit our ads, because we've got a little bit of time before the players run in. We understand there's going to be an unveiling of a former Sunderland player, Danny, on the pitch.
Really?
Seb Larsson's in the house.
Oh, he is, yeah. I've seen him at the training ground yesterday on the socials, wasn't he? Mixing with the lads.
Well, Seb Larsson's not in the starting 11.
He's not made it.
But there is a new number 7 in the Sunderland ranks. That's Job, who's had a similar career path to a certain extent to Seb. Both spent time at Birmingham City, of course.
Exactly, and picked up what young player of the season in the Championship. So, no, listen, he's been fantastic. I think if you're looking at maybe a slight criticism is his goals return, but you look what he gives the team on the whole. His energy getting around the pitch, look at the size of him now. He's grown. He's a big, strong unit, isn't he? And he's only going to get better. What is he still? 19, I think, is he? A lot of football, 100 games ticked off already. A lot of football ahead of him, and hopefully with us in the Premier League next season. And
looking at the bench as well, Danny, for Sunderland, we've got Dan Ballard back on there. Wilson's dropped down to the bench. Alan Brown, Abdul Samed, Milan Alexic, Leo Hjelde, Tommy Watson, and Harrison Jones keeps his spot. And Harrison Jones picking up all sorts of awards recently as well. He's, the academy's in good shape. I hosted the Academy Awards the other night.
You did.
Some good families coming through, never mind players. The Ogunsuis, the Joneses,
Watsons,
the Watsons as well.
So no, it's what you want, isn't it? That sort of conveyor belt, really. You put all the effort in with the coaches and throughout the years, the families. Tuesday nights turning up, whatever the weather, and they see returns from their children, and obviously grown into men, getting the opportunity to get into the first team. As you say, the likes of Harrison Jones, prime example this season coming in. Dan Neil leading the lads out with the armband on. It's fantastic for the club, and long may it continue.
Right, the lads are about to run in behind us. If you keep on this shot, guys, you'll see them run in for the final time of the regular season. Some of the lads just come back from Portugal, of course. When they do those kind of trips, Danny, they're going away, they're getting some warm weather training, but it's also good for them to get to know each other, isn't it?
I just think it's more of a morale one, try and reset off the pitch. We've been flat over the last few weeks. I know people are saying, we're in the playoffs, but getting beat against the lesser sides doesn't do your confidence any good. So a few days away, as you say, bit of sun on the lads' backs, bit of golf, I'd imagine, as well, maybe a night out, but switch it back on now, refocus, and let's go again. We know what the prize is at stake at the end of the next 2 weeks or so.
Okay then, Seb Larsson's going to get welcomed to the crowd in a moment. I'm not sure you'll be able to pick that up on our cameras, but we're going to head up to the gantry in a moment. It's just a reminder, you can get your matchday streaming passes right now at safc.com, so go and get them, and we'll see you very soon here on SAFC Live.
Sport, it's not just a game. It's in your DNA. Like us, you live and breathe every moment. You dissect, navigate, and analyze. At SpreadX, we bring you a world of betting where flexibility and precision are at your fingertips. With real-time analysis across all devices, wherever you are. Enjoy sports betting that's data-driven. Next level action. SpreadX, it's in our DNA.
And there's an opportunity here. Oh, how cool is that? How cool is that? From Chris Rigg. Flanagan, 25 yards, lines it up and drills it into the back of the net.